Kreg is releasing power tools, and I just got my hands on their 20-volt Rebel pocket hole joiner before it's even available to the public. And what's so awesome about this tool is that it runs on the proprietary Kreg Blue Ion 20-volt platform, along with a lot of other tools in the near future. We're gonna find out if the days are over where you've gotta bring your drill to your pocket hole jig, because now all of that is in one unit. You bring your tool to the material instead of the material coming to your Kreg jig. I've got 3 separate tests that we're gonna be doing for today's video. We've got thick dimensional lumber, a plywood project, and some simple melamine formwork to put this through its paces. And at the end, I'll be giving my thoughts. So stay tuned and let's get started on Modern Build. I started by breaking my 2x6s down to length. I need 2 pieces at 48 inches long and then 1 piece at 45 inches long. The goal is to attach these 3 boards with the shorter one in the middle. I'm creating the same box joint that I did last week on my planter box. I want to add screws and glue right here, 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 and here. Now let's set up this tool. First, we'll adjust for thickness 1.5 inches. And I guess here you can make micro adjustments if your material is a little bit thinner or just a little bit thicker. And we'll also set this to 1.5 inches as well. And now we'll give this a go. This is my honest first attempt at this, so be patient with me. Board should probably face me where I'm joining. And you might be thinking the joiner goes this way, but actually it's gonna go like this. And then we can put these feet down so it stays level. Now it's time to give it a try. It runs. And it drills. I think it worked. Let's do another one. We'll do this one on the end. I almost want to pull this handle down, but you actually push it. Booyah! Tried to wiggle on me just a little bit. I want to make sure I've got good pressure on this front handle. That's awesome, the material stayed still while I was drilling. First board is complete. That was pretty quick. And this is really good material choice for this joiner. Putting a pocket hole on the end of a heavy board can be a little hard to manage sometimes if you don't have your pocket hole jig set up super pro. But just being able to grab your tool, taking it right to the material, and drilling your hole is pretty cool. I almost pulled instead of pushed the handle. I was really enjoying using this joiner so far. I was pretty impressed with the speed you could put these pocket holes in. There's an attachment if you want to connect this to your dust collection. On the unit, there's also a tray that collects the majority of the shavings. Pretty cool. We're about to drill through a knot, so this is going to be a good test to make sure that this can handle drilling through tough material. Great success. I'm starting to figure out the right technique to kind of feel like the lever's going well. At first, I've got my hand here, and slowly I start putting more pressure towards the palm or my wrist, and then I can do a full pass, and it doesn't feel like I'm really pushing too much on my fingertips. And this is the most travel that you're gonna need, because 1.5 inches thick is about as thick as this can do. And I know building isn't about speed, but I'm gonna see how quick in real time we do the last board. Start timer. And FYI, I realized I made a mistake drilling pocket holes on all 3 boards. I actually only need it on 2. Last one. I hope it's under a minute. Stop timer. That was about 35 seconds for 5 pocket holes. That's 6 seconds each from a first-time user. So pretty fast. So now it is time to glue and screw these boards together. I'm gonna make sure these pocket holes are the right depth and everything stays aligned. I'm gonna be adding a little bit of glue. That way I make sure these are strong joints. This is gonna be a part of a planter box, so it needs to hold a lot of weight. I'm using coated outdoor screws since this is gonna be touching water or wetness with planters. And let's see if we made these the right depth. Ooh, that was nice. A couple of clamps helped keep my boards in place. and it was halfway through screwing these in that I realized I drilled too many holes. And now let's check out the finished result. We're really hoping that no screws are showing on our show face. And yes, I was totally a dingus for putting the extra pocket holes here. I've been using a doweling jig lately, so my bad. For this back panel, I need 3 2x6s, all the same length, 45 inches. And on this back wall, I want to do a flawless run. Last time, I accidentally added pocket screws to my middle board. This time, I'm only doing it to the top and the bottom. Now, I'm not gonna speed through this, but I'm gonna set a timer and see how long this takes. Ready? Go. My main goal was to make sure I didn't go too fast. I didn't want to make any mistakes, and I also just didn't want to do sloppy work. And at the end of the board, I put decent pressure down here, and that keeps it from moving. One board down, one to go. Ah, battery died. Pause the timer. Timer reset. This thing's running like a beast now. Way more power. You can hear just how much torque it has. I should have charged the battery to begin with. And I don't have the exact time, but I know it was right around 1:30. That is fast. I'll prep my workspace and then glue and screw these boards together as well, and then we'll make sure it's sturdy. Drop test. Whew. I was nervous, but I shouldn't have been. Glue isn't even dry yet, and these pocket screws worked great on this dimensional lumber. A few features made this really cool. Having these legs on the back really helped me put pressure down on the front, knowing that everything was staying in plane. All in all, for dimensional lumber like 2x4s, 2x6s, 2x8s, I would rate out of 10 the Kreg Rebel pocket hole joiner 10 out of 10. It's very fast and gives awesome pocket holes. Test number 2 is all about plywood with a face frame. If the new Kreg pocket hole joiner is any good, it really needs to be able to make a simple box with a face frame, something you would use for like a kitchen cabinet build. So that's what we're gonna simulate next. I started by ripping a couple of 9-inch wide strips. It'll be 30 inches tall, 26.5 inches wide with a shelf in the middle. Really quickly, here's an idea of what it'll look like put together. I marked locations where I want to drill pocket holes on the outside of these 2 side pieces. This is where they'll be hidden. Next, I needed to set up my Rebel pocket hole joiner. I adjusted everything to 3/4 inch material and turned the micro adjustment knob down just a little bit because this radiata pine plywood isn't a full 3/4 inch thick. I remembered that whenever your pocket hole joiner is resting on the material it's drilling, you don't need to extend those leveling feet in the back. Another thing I noticed is there isn't as much travel when you're doing thinner material. You don't have to move that handle as much, and it's really ergonomic. And I could see how this would be really useful moving the tool instead of large plywood pieces around. It's now time to glue and screw, and one thing I'm really curious about is the micro adjust knob. If it works properly, then I shouldn't have any screws protruding, but if it doesn't, I will. And I am very happy to report that I had no screws showing through on the other face. That means the micro adjust knob works great. And on this middle shelf, I just made sure that I had my pocket screws facing down so that they wouldn't be showing. This just might be a must-have if you're a cabinet maker or building a lot of boxes. But if you're gonna be making cabinets, you're probably doing face frames. And so next, I wanna test out the new Kreg joiner using thin 1x2 material. The 1x2 I'm using is Select Pine, and that's gonna match that radiata pine plywood really well. With what I normally build, I don't do very many face frames, so I'm excited for this. This right here is what you need to put pocket screws in narrow pieces with this tool. It's basically this sliding feather board that you can clamp onto your work table, and you can see how the other side is able to move freely. After that, you put in your material and then slide that feather board so that it's clamped tight against it, and then clamp that down to your work table. I was unsure how it was gonna do on this thin material because I wanted to put 2 pocket holes on each 1x2, but it worked great, like surprisingly well. Although it might not be as fast as the traditional like 720 Pro pocket hole jig. It takes a little bit more time to place the tool and line it up twice than with the 720 where you just do it once. I think real quick, I'm gonna do a side-by-side comparison. This test was good proof that my hunch was correct, that the 720 Pro was actually quicker for drilling holes on thin material like a 1x2 face frame. And stop the time. That is 40 seconds. And that totally blew my mind. It was a 16-second difference. I don't know, maybe that's 40% faster, and that's definitely not a knock on the new Rebel pocket hole joiner, but it does show just how awesome the Kreg 720 is with its quick clamp. I know it would cost a lot, but maybe these two in tandem is actually the ultimate setup. And now it was time to glue and screw this face frame together before we attach it to the plywood box we made. This went off without a hitch, and having this pocket hole clamp really helped keep my piece in place while I put the first screw in. I was excited to see this in place. I would say that this looks good. This might be my second face frame I've ever made in my life. Let's attach it. First, I ran a bead of glue around the perimeter of the box. After lining my face frame up, I locked it in place with a few 1.5-inch long brad nails. Dang it, sorry. Aside from a couple of nails shooting out on me, this went great. So, I am not a cabinet building expert by any means, but if you were, I think you would get a kick out of the new V20 Kreg pocket hole joiner. Overall, out of 10, it's not going to be a 10 because of the speed factor. For drilling pocket holes in big plywood though, it does get bonus points, so it all equals out to a 9 out of 10. Test number 2 complete. And for test number 3, we're going to be making a melamine form. But first, I want to give a big thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring today's episode. Squarespace is your one-stop shop to build your own website or online store. And now with their cutting-edge design tools like Blueprint AI, Squarespace's AI-enhanced website builder, that has never been easier. And with Squarespace's integrated SEO tools, you can get discovered fast. Squarespace does all the technical back-end work to make sure that you show up on search engines more often. With Squarespace invoices, you get paid faster and can impress clients with on-brand invoices, and streamline your workflow from proposals to contracts, invoices, and seamless online payments, all in one place. And with Squarespace email campaigns, you've got all the tools you need to engage your clients, promote your services, and build your business built in. So to learn more, make sure and follow my link down in the description. That's squarespace.com/modernbuilds. And then when it's time to make your site live, don't forget to use my code modernbuilds for 10% off your first site, store, or domain through Squarespace. As always, huge thanks to Squarespace and you all for watching. I think it's important that this tool needs to be able to make a melamine form, so we're making a small one to test it. You guys have seen me use a lot of melamine forms in my DIYs for epoxy and concrete and other pourable molds. One reason I want to try this is because melamine is a slippery material, so I want to make sure that this pocket hole joiner is able to work on it. So these pieces are also pretty narrow, but I don't want to put pocket holes on the ends. I'm going to be putting pocket holes along this edge to join with the melamine. Real fast, we'll double check that we're still on 3/4 of an inch there and 3/4 of an inch here, and then we'll make sure this stays sitting flat like we did before. Make sure I put more pressure on the front handle. That was perfect. Wow. That was a little too fast, I think. And there we have it. That is one melamine form ready for epoxy or concrete or whatever else. And overall, I would say the Kreg pocket hole joiner rates 9 out of 10 on this as well. The non-slip surface on the bottom is really good for melamine. I think you saw I barely got any movement at all. And that was pretty much user error when I wasn't pressing enough on this handle. So now it's time for the real answer. Would I recommend or would I buy the Kreg Rebel pocket hole joiner? Now the first thing I'm gonna say is the price isn't public. You can see on the website, it still says coming soon. So I want you guys to leave me a comment down below what you think this is worth, what you would pay for it, or what you think it's gonna cost. Now I've kind of got my personal and my professional thoughts on this. If I was a professional cabinet builder or woodworker, and this would save me time, especially with plywood panels, I would definitely get this. And I would even pair it with a 720 Pro, just like I did on the face frame. That way I used whichever jig was fastest, because time is money. But my personal thoughts, my DIYer thoughts, are as if I had a 720 Pro, I might not upgrade this already. But if I didn't have a pocket hole jig or I wanted to upgrade from a basic one, I would get this instead of the 720 Pro. I love how versatile this is, and I really prefer bringing the tool to the material rather than the material to the tool. So thanks again, make sure and like, comment, and subscribe down below. Let me know your thoughts, and thanks again to Kreg for hooking me up with this thing. And we'll see you next time on Modern Builds. Bye everybody. Whoosh.